Today on our podcast, I have Carlos Jimenez. He's actually a accountability partner I have from California. He's in with Brandon Turner's Better Life deal, and every week we hold each other accountable. But Carlos is a hero to me and someone who kills complacency and lives intentionally because he actually came to America, the land of opportunity, when he was just 17. And he's a lot of things. He's a wholesaler. He's a flips houses. He's an investor. You probably do some basketball coaching. I know he has a basketball camp. Now he works with his community with that. So he's a lot of different things, wears a lot of hats. But Carlos, could you tell me more about what you were like as a kid? I mean, we could talk about all your success all day, but what were you like when you were, well, let's just say 15 years old? How did you get to America?
Yes, no, thank you for having me. First and foremost, Marty. Glad to be here. So, 15 years old, I was in Mexico. To be exact, I was in Ciudad del Carmen, Campeche, which is a very, very small island in the
Mm.
Gulf of Mexico. So, right at the bottom, a few hours from Cancun. Everybody knows Cancun. Um, well, very small town. Um, I'm one of three. I'm the middle child, and my mom and dad were moved to that small town because of my dad's work. We were born in Mexico City. My parents are from Mexico City, and then we moved there when I was very little.
Hmm.
So I grew up there. There wasn't a lot of resources. Um, there was not a lot of support, good schools, like none of that, right?
Yeah.
And my dad was one of 14. My mom was one of nine, and we didn't grow up with much. My dad was actually the only one that graduated college. He
Mm.
was the first one to go to school and graduate in Mexico, and he was able to get a good job and move from there. And throughout the years, it's it was just it just wasn't a very um, it wasn't an upbringing full of things. I would say that my parents are
Yeah.
amazing. I love them. They're great, but it wasn't full of material things. It
Hmm.
wasn't full uh, of like wealth and investing and real estate and generational wealth and financial freedom. Like none of that was existent in
Carlos, compared to your kids, I mean, compared to your friends, were you better off or not?
No,
Your dad doing a good
I
job?
actually have rich friends. I was the one that was
Okay.
on the lower end. Uh, yeah, maybe that's one of the things that influenced me into wanting to be successful. That I kind of saw the people having nice things and I didn't.
You want to level up.
So maybe
Yeah.
that was one of those things. But yeah, I didn't grow up with much. I I was dragged into the basketball court at 15 because I was one of the tallest kids in the area, and there's not a lot of tall Mexicans, right? So uh, when
Carlos
that
is
happened,
6'6", by the way, guys. He's really tall.
yeah. When that happened, I just fell in love with the game. I started working out. I started training. I lost some weight, um, and I just went at it. I'm 16, and in my town, we're practicing outdoors, right? There's
Hmm.
no there's not a lot of resources. So what's the next move? So my brother was already going to college in Yucatan, the peninsula of Yucatan. If you're
Okay.
familiar, it's a little bit more of a affluent area. There's private schools. There's more resources, etc. So I moved out of my house at 16 years old to go live with my brother in a one bedroom apartment.
Okay.
I go to school. I literally from one day to another, like I'm taking the bus to school. Like I'm cooking for myself. Like I need to figure life out, right? I don't have mom or dad anymore. So that whole year, I just fell in love with the game even more. Like I was practicing with like two, three different teams, like
Mm.
riding my bicycle, walking to practice, going to school, etc., etc. I got pretty good, I would say. So after that year, I went back home to that summer, and I was having a conversation with my dad, and I'm like, "Hey, like, what's next? Right? What's the next move? I feel like I've surpassed um,
Yeah.
Yucatan's level, like here, Campeche, like what's next? So we started having a conversation of like, okay, maybe you can try for like the 16 youth national team, et cetera, et cetera. And then out of nowhere, he's just like, hey, Carlos, like you have an aunt that lives in Santa Ana, California.
Hmm.
Why don't you just go over there? And I've never met this lady. Like she's been in the States for 30 years. I know she has a husband and she has a couple kids, but I've never met her. Like I don't know. I don't know. I've never been to the States. I don't know what it's gonna be like. Like, but I was like, yeah, sure. So my dad calls her and he says like, hey Maria, like, what do you think about having Carlos go over there, do some school, learn some English, play basketball, and then he'll come back? And she said, well, Theo, there's six of us here. It's a one-bedroom apartment, but we'll make it work. So
Wow.
thanks to her, like for opening that door, like I was able to come here. My dad borrowed some money to get me a plane ticket. We got my visa paperwork started, and then I ended up here July 18, 2009.
That's really cool. And you
Yeah.
went right to California.
Yes, yes.
And
Landed in LAX. My uncle picked me up, and then we drove to our apartment or to their apartment in Santa Ana, Orange
and
County.
Carlos, how did you measure up to basketball in California compared to Mexico?
Oh man, I thought I was good. I thought I was good, and I got here, and there's people dunking. Like I've never seen. Yeah, I've never seen athletic like just jumping out of the gym. Like yeah, it was crazy. So that fueled me even more to want to like get better
Okay.
and catch up. But it was great. It was great. I didn't have much success in high school. I was still kind of overweight, and the level is just completely different.
Sure.
After high school,
How big of a school is that you went to?
it wasn't that big. Maybe like 2,000 students.
Okay.
Um, yeah, maybe 2,000 students. It wasn't that big. I didn't get really good until after high school because
Okay.
I needed. So moving forward to graduation, my aunt told me like, hey, like you're graduating, like what's the deal? Are you going back? Like what are you gonna do? And at that point, my some of my coaches were already telling me like, hey, like why don't you try playing college?
Hmm.
And again, I wasn't very good to play in college, but they knew my work ethic. I was
Okay.
always the hardest worker in the room. Like I would show up, I would be the first one and the last one to leave. I would do extra weight training. I would get 500 shots a day, like that type of like obsession. Um, so I start like kind of trying out for like local junior colleges, and and then I tell my family like, hey, it seems like I can play. What do you think? And they're like, hey, we support you. Like do what's best for you. But then my aunt was like, okay, well the deal was just like high school, right? So she kind of she kind of kicked me to the curb. And then I started like sleeping in like my friends' houses. Another family kind of like took me in, and then finally I found some roommates. Through like my local youth group, which is called Young Life. So
Okay.
so that's a whole nother story. But I've been very blessed. I've been put around beautiful, amazing people that have supported my journey, and yeah,
That's cool. So then you went off to play in college and you
yeah.
got
So
better and
yeah, so I
better.
started. I because I was trying to figure out my immigration status, my visa, and all that stuff. I didn't go to college right away, and I wasn't really ready yet because like basketball wise. So I started working, training kids like one on one, doing a lot of that stuff, and then I was training myself like for 8 hours a day, like literally. And then I finally make a roster for a local junior college here. They were like top in the state. They were
Hmm.
stacked with like Division 1 athletes that didn't have the grades, but they were amazing. So
Okay.
we played. So I played there for 2 years. We won a state championship, and then I got a scholarship to a 4-year university in Sacramento.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's really
if it
cool.
wasn't for basketball, I wasn't gonna be able to stay. Like there was no way I could afford college. Um, Basketball opened a lot of opportunities for me.
Sure. Have you read Arnold Schwarzenegger's book? What's that called, Keziah? I'm forgetting what it's called right now,
You
but you know
fearless?
What is it?
Be fearless.
I think so. Have you read that?
I'm like halfway through it.
You know, he used kind of the same similar story. He used his bodybuilding to come to America.
Hmm.
Um, and it's really cool how he did that. I love his story because he's really had three professions. But
Yeah, yeah,
you know, he's an immigrant. He saw opportunity here. He knew he didn't have a lot of opportunity there, so he kind of like you. He worked himself to death, get the best body ever, and
yeah,
and that's what he did.
yeah,
And without lifting weights, he was nothing where he was. So
yeah, yeah. I think it just touches on the concept of picking a thing and getting really good at it, whatever that might be, because that's what will get you results in some shape, way or form, and that will open doors, right? Like
yeah,
whether in whatever stage you are in life, it will lead to something else, right? Like obviously, I didn't make it to the NBA, but it
was
opened.
that a goal of yours?
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah. That's what. Yeah, I wanted. That's what's training. I was training so hard, and but it led me to things. When you work so hard for something, even if that doesn't work out, like it opens doors to other things, and it leads you to
Mhm.
other things, which would not be there if you didn't do that first thing in the first place.
Yeah, for sure. Um, and it sounds like I like to ask people what their competitive advantage is. Yours would obviously part of yours would be height, but part of yours also would just be work ethic, right?
I think so. I think my work ethic has definitely been the biggest competitive advantage in my journey. I'm not. I always say like I'm not very smart. I just
Hmm.
surround myself with people that are smart, and then I pay them. uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I work very hard. I work very, very, very hard, and I'm not the smartest. And I take action quick. I make decisions quick, and I learn as I go. Like I make mistakes, learn as I go, adjust, tweak things, keep moving forward. I don't ever get like stuck. Like I'm like no making a decision is making a decision.
Yeah, for sure. You
So
make a decision when you don't.
yeah, yep,
And I'd
yep,
rather make it wrong and keep
yeah.
moving than yeah. So I kind of feel like anyone can do about anything if they find that thing.
Yep.
For yours, obviously, was basketball. You didn't start playing basketball till you were 15. Is that right?
Yeah, 15. Yeah, kids here start playing at 4 years old.
I know. That's
I
what I
didn't
was
I didn't
thinking.
touch a
Like,
basketball until I was 15, and I tell that to all my kids now, because a lot of them put like so much pressure on, like the parents put so much pressure on the kids, and then the kids
at
also are
7 years old, they're mad at it.
yes, and I'm like, relax, let them have fun first,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. How did you get started into real estate, Carlos?
So I graduated college in 2017, and I was always an entrepreneur. I feel
Hmm.
like I was the kid that would sell candy at school. I was the
Hmm.
kid that I was even selling something like DVDs in my middle school. Like I was always trying to like I would be like, "Hey, dad, like I'll wash your car, but for $20." Like
Yeah.
like I was always looking ways to make money. Finding ways to make money. And so when I graduated college, I'm like, okay, like I don't see myself at a desk. What should I do? What can I do? I want to be my own boss, right? I was already listening to like podcasts and like business entrepreneur videos, things like that. And I was like, I want to do this. Like, I want to transfer all of the energy that I put towards making the MBA. I want to put it into business.
Mm.
And obviously, I didn't know how, but I knew I wanted to do it. So I graduated 2017. I moved back to Orange County, and I was good with parents. I had already been coaching for a while in the off season. Like I was known in the community. Um, so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna start my own basketball academy. Like I work for two, and they have all these kids, and I'm great with parents. Like I think I can do the same thing.
Yeah.
So I start my own thing. I start with one kid. Um, and then it kind of grows, and then I'm doing a ton of private sessions, like one-on-one, like every day, like 30 private sessions a week, and I'm bumping the price, and they keep saying yes. So I'm like, okay, I need to do some groups, and then I need to hire a coach. um, so from 2017 to 2020, I grew it to about like a couple hundred kids, and I had staff, I had coaches. We were doing international camps. Like we were having like other
Wow.
programs from like South America, Mexico, Japan, Korea. They were traveling here for our training. My social media was exploding. We were doing well, right? Right before 2020, I was already learning about. I was already dabbling into real estate.
Okay.
I knew how much. I knew how far I could take my basketball academy,
Mm-hmm.
but I need another vehicle that will take me, that will be allow me to accomplish the ambitions and goals that I want to set for myself.
Sure.
Right? The more I talk to people, the more I hear real estate. So I started
Word.
through family and friends. I started asking people like, "Hey, can I take you out to lunch? Can I take you out to coffee?" Like, I started meeting with family friends, and these are people from like Newport Beach here in California that own 3,000 units. Like,
Okay.
insane. Like, and I have no idea what real estate is. Like, I'm just asking questions like, how'd you get started? Like, what drove you to it? Like, what do you do? Like, I don't know, single family, multifamily, I don't know any of that
Yeah.
verbiage yet, or lingo. um, so it's something I wanted to do, because UYP, that's the name of my academy, was doing so well. I used it as an excuse to not pull the trigger. So 2020
Mm,
comes, COVID hits. I'm like, shoot, I have to refund. I literally refunded like $30,000 to parents in like a matter of 1 or 2 weeks.
sure.
Everybody's freaking out. Lockdown goes into place. What am I gonna do? Like, there's no sports. There's literally like nothing. Everything's closed, right? I mean, everybody knows. I use that as a pivot moment. It's a pivotal moment
Sure.
for me, because now I have to come up with money to pay my rent, right? So I'm here making some calls. I had a mentor here that I was already
Mm-hmm.
shadowing. He was a flipper. I was shadowing him. I was learning. So I call him and I'm like, "Hey Joe, like I, I I don't know what to do. Like I'm all in. I'm all in real estate. Tell me what to do." He's like, "Oh, call Ryan. Ryan is his son-in-law." So I'm calling him, and he like blows me off for a little bit, and then he finally answers and tells me like, "Okay, come to the office." So I go into the office. He gives me a script. He gives me a big list, and then starts me has me start cold calling. So I call for 7 months and do
Carlos,
not find a deal.
are you wholesaling at this point or buying retail? What are you buying?
At,
How are you
at
buying?
that point, I don't know what I'm doing. All I did was show up to his office. He gives me a
And make
list
calls.
and he tells me
Okay.
to make calls. Okay. I knew he was flipping. I don't know what wholesaling is. Like, I don't know anything. Like, he just literally just told me figure it out. Like, he didn't sit with me. He didn't sit next to me and say this, or this is what we're looking for. Like, I will have a bunch of conversations, and then I will be like, "Hey, what do I say when I say this?" Like, I will. That's when I would ask questions. Like, but he pretty much was like, "Here, figure it out." So 6 months go by. I don't find any deals, and then on the 7th month, I find 7 deals. I get my
Wow.
first check, and it makes it
What month
over.
of the year is it?
Say it again.
What month of the year is it?
That was January
Oh, 2020.
2021. So from so
2021. So
from
January.
from from March 2020, which is when COVID hit, until December, I did not find anything. January 2021,
Wow.
find 7 deals. 6 months later, because of everything that I've already put in, we start our own company. We go half and half. We're not partners. That year, we ended up doing over 40 flips. So
Wow.
he was doing
Wow.
like 10 to 12 flips a year. I came in and I 4x his business. 2022 we did over 60, and then we added the wholesaling department. Now we've
Wow.
done like
How did you tell me about that conversation into that partnership? How'd that go? I mean,
uh,
you come in as an employee and then now you're partners.
yeah, there was no conversation. I showed up. I walked into the office once. I walked into the office one day, and he's like, "Hey, come here, come sign this operating agreement." Um, and I'm like, "What do you mean? What is this?" And he's like, "Here, I organized articles of organization. I filed for LLC, trusted investors, and you're gonna be 50-50.
Yeah.
We're gonna be 50-50. And I was kind of shocked. I was like, wait, what? Like, really? Like, seriously? I mean, obviously, like, that was like, it was such a blessing, and it was sort of like such a great feeling of reward, like, for me. And I was extremely grateful for that. And we later on talked about it, but he said that because he saw like all of the work that I put in the previous 11,
Sure.
12 months, he saw in me what he wanted in a partner. So that
Yeah.
led him to take that initiative, or just out of him to be like, hey, like, let's do this, like, like, he saw the
That's
value, he
really
saw the value that I brought in.
that's really cool. That's what I was gonna say. Is I mean, it kind of sounds like I mean the way you told the story, you didn't have a lot of say in it. It was like
Right, yeah,
sign
honestly,
this
yeah.
contract. We're gonna be partners.
Yeah, and I was, obviously, I was thrilled, and we've done well. We do a lot, and we've done a lot, and it's been crazy, honestly. Like, sometimes I think about it, and I'm like, in such period of time, I've been involved in all these deals, I've been involved in all this real estate, and I'm still not like an expert. Like, I'm you
Hmm.
know, and it just kind of always is it's a great reminder when I'm sharing, like, in meetups, or when I'm talking to people that are trying to get started. It's always a great reminder to share that piece of the story, because so many people get stuck in wanting to know everything, or wanting to have all these things
Yeah.
set in place in order for them to pull the trigger when it's just not necessary.
Yeah. Just go out and take some action. Right. Make it happen. And that's the other thing I think that we fail to realize is exactly what you said. We get analysis paralysis trying to have everything just right, but sometimes we just got to put one foot in front of the other
Yep.
and keep going
Yep.
and be intentional with where we're at